Everyone thought he was a level 1 loser, but he turns out to be the strongest hero in this world after saving a bunch of pretty girls. Flio used to be a normal trader in a fantasy world where people treated demihumans as slaves, but he was built different and treated them with respect, even paying them a fair wage for their work. For this reason, the other traders hated him, but one day, while loading goods in his wagon, he suddenly gets transported to a completely new world. He looks around surprised to see a large number of hooded men, congratulating each other for finally summoning the hero, and the Pope tells a surprised Flio that they have been trying to summon a hero because the demon army is threatening to destroy their kingdom completely. Before he could even say anything, a maid wearing a furry uniform walks up the pedestal and places a magical crystal in front of him. The Pope claims that because all the heroes are level 1 when they enter this world, the gods give them overpowered abilities which can never be gained by a normal human being. Suddenly, the stats appear in front of him, and to their absolute horror, he has below average stats along the board and doesn't even have a single special ability. Suddenly, on the other pedestal, another hero was called whose stats turned out to be 999. Everyone gets on their knees to gobble his whiner and starts celebrating, while the blonde hero looks at Flio and laughs at his pathetic level. The king is informed, who immediately starts showering the hero with presents and officially names him the savior, while Flio looks out the balcony, realizing that he disappointed this people just like I disappoint my parents. He decides to talk to them so that he can be sent back to his own world, but the next morning, he is packed into a carriage forcefully and is sent away from the capital. He remembers how the Pope told him that the portal through which he entered this world has been closed now, and there is no other way for him to return back. Because of this, the king has decided to grant him a piece of land in a faraway forest where no one lives, but tells him that he is not supposed to return back to the capital ever again, or tell anyone that he is from another world. While traveling, Flio tries to talk to the lizardman person, but he tells him to shut up as no one wants to talk to losers. Flio sleeps, eats, and drinks inside of the wagon for a solid 20 days, after which they finally reach the mysterious forest. He comes out to see a pretty landscape and thinks that he might be able to live here, while the lizardman hands him a bag. Before leaving, however, the lizardman advises him to run away from here as soon as possible, because this forest is supposed to be the stronghold for some very strong demon generals. After that, he leaves without saying a word, leaving Flio alone, who checks the magic bag to find it has some money, food, and other essentials, including a sword. Excitedly, he pulls out the sword, which looks very fancy with its golden handle and sharp blade, when suddenly some slimes pull up to the hood behind him. He ignores them at first as slimes are not aggressive, but to his surprise the purple monsters immediately attack him, forcing him to defend himself with the sword as he slashes them to pieces. Immediately after, he notices that the sword was made in China and has already shattered just by this. Suddenly, a screen pops up, claiming that his level has increased, and he checks his stats only to be shocked to see all of his abilities are now SS ranked. This confuses him, but before he could do, Alexa pops up and starts telling him that she will guide him. She claims that he has unlocked various magic spells, which completely takes him by surprise. Before he could do anything, she also tells him that the magic bag that he got has a GPS tracker alongside a monster bait, which will make the monsters attack him. This makes him realize that the king sent him here as he wanted him to get killed off in the forest without anyone noticing it. To his surprise, Alexa tells him that she can remove all these spells from the bag, and Flio gives his affirmation. After removing the curses from the bag, he wanders around and was about to enter the forest, when Alexa warns him that there is a poisonous gas secreted by the demons inside the entire forest which causes problems for humans and demi-humans, and advises him not to enter. She then asks whether he wants to purify the forest, and after Flio says, a huge light blast occurs, which sweeps over the entire forest and purifies it. While Flio was still confused, a bunch of screens pop up, which reminds me of the virus I got after clicking on links about finding MILFs in my area. Meanwhile, back at the kingdom, the princess tells her old dad that what he did was extremely unhinged and Flio will definitely die inside the forest. His ugly dad doesn't care about that at all and calls him a piece of trash, when one of the mages walks up to him and claims that an S-ranked purification magic was used inside the kingdom. The king is overjoyed as he thinks that it has been activated by the blondie who he sent to fight the demon army, but to his surprise, the mage tells him that the magic was not activated in the south where Blondie is, but to the north inside the mysterious forest. Back in the forest, the pop-ups finally end, and Alexa tells Flio that his current level is 367, which means that he is basically a god on this planet. Flio doesn't care about being a god, but doesn't want to live alone either, so Alexa advises him to shapeshift and commit identity theft, which this degenerate agrees to. At first Alexa turns him into a thick-thighed girl, but he realizes that he is not a good bottom, so he changes the gender back to a man that no one has seen before. He decides to head back to the capital to have some fun, when Alexa tells him that he can use teleportation magic. He agrees to do that, and is immediately teleported to the city, which really surprises him. He then tries to see whether this magic could teleport him to his original world, but fails, so he enters the city to get a drink and forget his sadness. He decides to approach the Adventurers Guild first to register himself, and the receptionist tells him about all the ranks different adventurers have before giving him his identification card, which has rank E written on it. He takes the tag and searches the notice board for any quests, when he notices a lowly asking the adventurers to escort her to the mysterious forest where her parents live. Sadly, none of the adventurers agree to it, as she doesn't have a lot of money and because the mysterious forest is very deadly. Flio decides to try his luck with the lowly and tells her that he is willing to take her back to the mysterious forest, and he won't even take his money as he knows teleportation magic. This shocks every single person present in the guild, and Flio realizes that teleportation magic must be a very high-ranked magic which only the top sorcerers could do. Suddenly, the FBI pulls up and a blonde bimbo puts her sword to his throat asking how many children are in his basement. The witch of the group claims that he must be a trafficker while the lowly hides behind Muscle Mommy. Flio immediately tells them that he is just an adventurer, and he stopped putting children in his basement ever since he got caught in his original world. The girls don't believe him and take him to an empty alleyway before telling him to show them the teleportation magic he was talking about, before promising that if he tries to run away, she will chop him to pieces. Flio turns around and activates teleportation magic, transporting all of them to the mysterious forest, which surprises all of them as they confirm the location on the map. The witch asks why is he still E rank, while the blondie goes down on her knees and apologizes for calling him a PDF file. The girl goes near the forest and notices that all the poisonous gases are gone. Flio was about to tell her that he purified it, when Alexa warns him that the girl is a demon. Suddenly, Blondie walks in front of him and draws her sword at the little girl, while Muscle Mommy, the archer, and the witch all get ready to attack. Without wasting any time, Blondie tells the lowly to reveal her true colors, and informs Flio that the guild put up a notice that a mysterious lowly has been trying to lure people to go into the mysterious forest. The archer claims that this forest is the home of a demon general, which makes it highly suspicious, while the blondie keeps pushing her sword towards her, making her cry. Suddenly, the expressions change, and the lowly starts smiling viciously, claiming that they all will die before her fangs grow, and she starts transforming into a demon to everyone's surprise. The lowly turned out to be a huge wolf demon called Fen, who is one of the demon army's 4 generals. She claims that the Demon King sent her to keep an eye on the adventurers, and she can't let anyone know who she is, so they have to die. Immediately, the entire area gets covered with a poisonous gas, while all the girls collapse on the ground in a very weakened state while Flio tries to help Blondie up. Fen is surprised to see that Flio is unaffected but decides to deal with him later and attacks Blondie, only for Flio to save her at the last moment. He realizes that he can't run away while protecting all of them, so he tells Alexa to teleport all of the girls back to the capital, which saves their lives. Flio then gets ready for a fight using all the spells that he has at his disposal to try and win. Fen immediately rushes in for an attack, but Flio immediately uses instant transmission to dodge the attack and appears behind her. Fen immediately turns around and tries to strike him down with her sharp claws, but Flio uses earth magic and creates a wall which protects him from the attack. He immediately follows through with a wind attack, throwing her up in the air. Realizing that Flio is not weak, Fen quickly teleports out of the way and tries to land a surprise attack on him, but his reactions are quicker and is able to use his gravitation spell on her, forcing her to the ground, while she is completely stunned as she has never seen this magic before. He realizes that he needs to capture her right now, but he has no idea which spell to use. Thankfully, Alexa pops up and recommends him to use the slavery magic, which will force Fen to follow all of his orders, but he is not a Confederate and refuses to use the spell. Meanwhile, Fen tries to use a spell to escape, but Alexa nullifies the spell, while telling Flio to use the slavery spell. He refuses again, while Fen uses the teleportation magic only to fail once again. Flio struggles with the idea to use a spell to force someone into slavery, as he hated it in the previous world as well, but Alexa tells him that this is the only way. While this is happening, Fen continues to use spell after spell to escape this gravity magic, but fails again and again to the point where she falls over defeated and exhausted as she has no more magic left inside of her. She urges him to kill her as she has no way of surviving once his mana has been drained, but Flio tells him that he has no intentions of killing anyone and dispels the gravity magic. This surprises her as she stands up to face him and claims that she is a demon warrior who has fought against and killed several humans, so why would he let her live? He looks at her gently and responds that it doesn't matter to him whether she is a monster, because he will never attack or kill an enemy who has surrendered already. This surprises her and she changes back into her human lowly form, but without any clothes. Like a gentleman, Flio immediately puts his cloak on here and asks her to promise that she won't attack humans for no reason anymore. He then starts looking in his bag for some clothes, when he turns around to see that she has fallen over into a state of deep sleep as her mana is depleted completely. He smiles and puts her in a tent, and by the time evening comes, he lights a fire and starts checking all the different magic spells he has and remembers how people thought he was lying about being able to use teleportation magic. After a while, Fen finally wakes up and comes out to greet him, asking whether he used healing magic on her to replenish her mana. He smiles and tells her that she is safe, and she replies that it would have been totally valid if she was already dead by now, but because he spared her life, she owes everything she has to him and promises to never hurt humans again without any reason. He smiles and thanks her, but she isn't done and claims that she also owes his life to him, and will act as his slave from now on. He tells her that he doesn't need any slaves, which saddens her, and she grows her claws back, claiming that her life will have no meaning if she can't serve him, and tries to delete herself. Flio begs her to stop and claims that she can stay with him as long as she wants, which immediately makes her happy. A little while later, he tells her his story about how he is not from this world and was actually teleported here without his will as a hero candidate, but because he was super weak with no special skills. He was tossed aside by the king and left in the forest to die, as they didn't know how to send him back home. He then changes her appearance back to normal to show her how he actually looks, and tells her that he is technically banished from the kingdom and will have to constantly keep moving, which will be very problematic and stressful for her if she decides to follow him. She reassures him that she will stay by his side no matter what and pledges her life and loyalty to him, pleading with him to let her stay with him. Flio is shocked at this, but gladly accepts her proposal, which makes Flio really happy, and she hugs him tightly. Meanwhile, inside the castle, the hero comes back to report a massive loss against the demon army to the king, and when the king asks how did so many knights get wiped out in a single battle, he starts blaming him for giving him knights that were so weak that they immediately broke rank and started running here and there at the sight of a single demon. He then tells the king to be thankful for the knights that were able to survive because of him and storms out of the court. Following this, the king turns towards one of the knights and asks what actually happened at the battlefield. The knight paints a totally different story, claiming that the hero was a massive coward and was hiding behind the ranks of the knights even though he was the strongest. Moreover, the moment strong demons started attacking, he decided to run away, while telling the knights to cover his retreat. The king holds his head in disbelief, not knowing how to save his kingdom, while the hero walks back to his chambers, angry at himself for not getting any stronger even after trying so much. The next morning, Flio takes Fen back into the city where they walk through the market and decide to act as husband and wife to avoid causing unnecessary suspicion. They soon head out into the Adventurers Guild to get Fen registered so that they can take on some quest and earn money. She soon gets her adventurer's tag, which makes her really happy because it's the same rank that Flio has. They head over to the notice board to get a quest, when an emergency quest is announced by the receptionist. According to her, a lot of monsters have been seen in the forests near the city, and they seem to be moving towards the town to destroy it. Everyone gets scared as the monsters being this close to the city means that the hero failed to destroy them. The receptionist also announces that they will pay 10 times the usual amount for each monster killed. Flio claims that the pay is pretty good, but they should skip fighting these monsters as they sound strong. Fen looks at him confused and tells him that they are no match against him, but he doesn't believe her, claiming that even the hero wasn't able to defeat them. Fen tells him that if he won't come then she will go alone and kill those monsters. And if she can kill them, then Flio can kill them as well because he is stronger than her. He agrees, and they teleport towards the forest where they find an empty house which the guild has set up as their base. They were about to go in when they hear a scream from the other direction, and immediately head towards it, only to find the same group of girls that Flio saved before, and even this time they are completely surrounded. Fen looks at them and tells Flio that they are pathetically weak, while one of the monsters try to attack the muscle mommy who tries to fight with an injured arm but gets thrown back. Before the monster can finish her off though, Flio uses his lightning magic to utterly fry the beast, saving her life. One of the monsters rush towards the witch who is saved by Fen, who crushes it in a single hit. After defeating the remaining monsters, the Lady Knight thanks Flio for saving their lives once again. But suddenly another monster appears behind Fen and was about to attack her. But she turns around and gives him a death glare which scares the beast as it starts begging for mercy, shocking everyone. Fen finds him cute and decides to keep him as a pet, so Flio uses his magic to put a collar on him and changes him to look like a small dog rabbit-looking abomination. Later that day they head inside the house, where the Night Lady introduces herself as Bali, while the small redhead is named Archer, and the lowly with the hat is named the Witch. She asks him to teach them how to fight as ever since the hero's defeat. He is refusing to fight against the demons because he needs a capable right-hand man who is strong enough to fight the monsters. So the king has told every knight to become strong enough to take down one of the monsters alone. Fen immediately gets angry and jealous at this proposition as she doesn't want to share Flio, but he immediately tells everyone that Fen is her wife, which makes her really happy, and she tells Flio that he should let them stay here in the house and train them, which makes the ladies really happy as they get ready for their training sessions starting the next day. The next morning, Flio wakes up to find Rise already waiting for him near his bed. He gets a bit scandalized but remembers that last night Rise wanted to sleep with him in the same bed because they are husband and wife. But Flio got flustered and told her that there are a lot of formalities that they have to do to complete a marriage. Rise looks disappointed and claims that beast people can simply marry whoever they want whenever they want without any preparations. Flio tells her that he will sleep outside, but Rise tells him that if the other girls watch them sleeping separately, they might get suspicious about their supposed marital relationship. Hearing this, Flio has no option but to sleep in the same room with her, but he decides to keep 2 separate beds like my parents before their divorce. Rise starts telling him to change out of his old clothes, when Bali enters their room without knocking like a mannerless kid, and gets scandalized by the position the two were in and runs away without saying a word. After that they head out to do some training, but it doesn't seem to be going too well. Bali stands in front of the boar but starts introducing herself instead of attacking, which the boar takes advantage of and rushes to attack, forcing her to flee. Muscle Mommy comes in for the save and swings her giant sword, but misses the strike completely, enraging the boar even more. Rise immediately tells the witch to use her magic shield, which she does successfully, while the archer shoots arrows at the beast doing almost 0 damage. By that time even the witch's mana wears off and the shield disappears, giving the boar a clear way to attack. Flio and Rise watch from afar as the squad of girls run around pathetically while the boar chases them. Later that day, Flio arranges some beds so that the girls can sleep comfortably on fluffy beds, which seems to be a welcome decision. They then head down towards the kitchen, only to find huge chunks of raw meat placed on each plate on the table, while Rise cheerfully tells Flio that she extracted this meat from the boar hunt earlier and prepared luxurious slices for each of them as a celebration for their new homes. Flio tells her that they usually eat cooked meat instead of uncooked meat, so Rise offers to grill it for them, but Flio doesn't trust her with the food and tells her to relax while he cooks them some food. With the help of Bali, he puts an amazing spread for everyone on the table, complete with salads, rice, and beautifully cooked steak. Rise seems to get jealous while Flio comments on how good Bali cooks, who claims that her family belongs to the nobility, but they lost most of their money and prestige, so she always had to cook for herself, and ended up enjoying the process. Everyone starts eating, commenting on how good the dishes taste, but Rise is still skeptical as she thinks fresh meat tastes best when raw, and plants and leaves are the food of weak animals who get killed by stronger beasts. Flio encourages her to try some salad, and to her surprise, she ends up liking it a lot. After that she tries the steak and her entire world turns upside down as she has never had such a tender and juicy piece of meat with a golden brown crust. She downplays how good the food was and promises everyone that she will cook food that's even better than this next time. Later that day, Flio and Rise visit the capital to sell the boar demons that they hunted down. And because the boars are considered as class of demons, everyone is surprised because Flio is supposed to be a newbie and not an S-rank hero. Flio realizes that they will have to tone down the amount of strong monsters they kill to avoid suspicions, and Rise agrees. She then tells Flio that she needs to go into the town for some personal errand, and will meet him later. Flio bids goodbye to her as he gets called by a furry who asks whether they can talk alone. Flio doesn't kink shame anyone, so he goes alongside the furry into a different room, where the man tells him that his achievements have been a topic of discussion amongst the people of this kingdom. According to him, even the king got to know about him and his exploits and want to grant him the position of an honorary knight, which is one of the highest honors a man of common descent can achieve. The king wants him to serve under the hero and protect the kingdom from the demons. Flio doesn't even have to think about it, and immediately declines the offer, claiming that he is happy living his life as is, and has no intentions of joining the fight against the demons. This surprises the furry, but Flio doesn't care and comes out of the guild by the time the sun starts setting. He finds Rise waiting for him, covered in ash and beaten up, which worries him, and he asks whether a demon attacked her. She tells her that it was nothing, whereas in truth, she ended up going to a cooking class that she saw a poster about and tried learning how to cook. Unfortunately, she just doesn't have the aptitude for cooking and ended up always messing things up, and even blew up the entire class with her magic when she tried to get a flame. After that, 1 month passes by without much happening, but the king's men always come to his house, time to time asking whether he would want to join the hero's party to battle against the demons, but every time Flio refuses. After that, he checks onto Muscle Mommy, who got interested in farming and created a small garden with the help of the doggy and was able to successfully grow fresh produce. But because of that, she basically stopped training to fight. Meanwhile, Rise tries to get the fear of shooting a living thing out of the archer, as she only practices with a wooden target. Rise tries to use the tender meat of the beast chicken as a motivation, but it fails. On the other hand, the witch still has very low amounts of mana, so Flio gives her a magical ring that will boost her mana pool. He tells her to try it out for the day and let him know whether it is helpful. She was going to put it on her ring finger while thinking about Flio, but Rise scares her straight by threatening to cut her hand off if she tries to put it on the ring finger. Bali as well tries pulling the helpless girl act, screaming for Flio to help, but Rise immediately chops the monster in half, telling Bali to drop the act before she drops her. Bali claims that she doesn't know what she is talking about, but Rise tells her that she is simply trying to act weak in front of Flio and hoping that he will come to save her like a knight in shining armor. She tells him to keep her eyes off of her husband, when suddenly she looks around, as she feels someone is spying on them, but doesn't see anyone. Later that afternoon, they all sit down on the table to have food that was totally made by Rise. They all are surprised to see how big of a step up this is compared to a piece of raw meat and ask whether she used magic or whether she robbed a restaurant. Rise calmly tells them that she cooked all of this by herself, and explains that she has been taking cooking classes for the past month in the capital. Even though she was terrible at first, she kept trying, and through continuous practice, she was finally able to produce something edible. They all try it and love the flavor, but Rise is mostly interested in the thoughts of Flio. She watches him closely as he takes a bite and immediately tells her that the food is amazing and he can eat the entire pot by himself. This really makes her happy as she thanks him, but unbeknownst to them, a spy was keeping an eye on them through the window. The furry beast recognizes Rise and is confused as to why she is living amongst the humans and wonders whether she is hatching a plan to kill the hero. But before she could report anything back to the Demon King, Rise ends up appearing behind her, which scares the Bagesis out of her. She ends up taking the spy inside, whose name is Ulmana, and Flio offers her some tea. She seems to be completely taken off guard as she thanks them for the tea and burns her tongue immediately. Rise immediately comes down to business and asks what the hell is Demon King's personal assistant doing in this forest. Ulmana tells her that a lot of demons died in this area, so she came to investigate and ended up finding her. Rise tells her that the demons were killed by her when they attacked, and that she is now living happily with Flio, who also happens to be her husband. Ulmana is surprised at this revelation, but Rise immediately asks whether she wants to cause trouble for them. Ulmana gets scared and tells her that she has no such intentions and burns her tongue once again. She is unable to understand how a human like Flio is so calm in the presence of a demon, and tries to check his stats but fails. She then asks Rise whether she knows anything about what happened in the northern forest, as there are no demons alive there anymore. Flio looks at her and tells her that he cast a purification magic on the forest but didn't know that it will kill the demons and apologizes. Almana is beyond shocked and asks whether he is really the one who cast the purification magic, and then she turns to Rise asking whether she knew about it. She claims that Rise's brother was also in the forest when this happened and ended up dying because of Flio. Rise's face turns dark as she tells Almana to shut her mouth. Flio looks at Rise and asks whether she knew he killed her brother. She tells them that her brother was a wolf warrior and the worst thing to do would be to mourn his death. Moreover, he was one of the 4 generals of the Demon King army and should have known better how to deal with this situation. Rise looks at Flio and tells him that it doesn't change her feelings for him even a bit, as she fell in love with him because he was strong. But now she learned how kind he is and loves him even more. The girls end up overhearing this, and the witch faints as she realizes that Rise is actually the legendary wolf that almost killed them. Almana, on the other hand, simply gets up and asks Flio to spar with her, and he agrees. Once outside, their battle starts and Almana immediately jumps up before using a poison attack on him, but at the same time casts a magic circle to hurt Rise. This enrages Flio, who dispels both of her attacks with the click of his fingers and uses a crucifixion magic to trap her in the air, as he threatens her never to attack Rise again and tells her to leave. The next morning they hear a loud commotion and run outside, only to see Almana on top of a huge dragon army, flying towards them to take revenge. Instead of getting scared though, Flio gets really excited as he has never seen a dragon before and always wanted a dragon scale. He immediately uses his lightning magic and brings down almost all of the dragons to the ground completely barbecued, while Almana stands there in disbelief as how can someone dismantle the strongest force of the demon army alone. Muscle Mommy wonders whether she could have thrown a hoe at them and gotten the title of Dragon Slayer, and Flio tells him it's not too late to try. She throws her hoe at one of the fleeing dragons, and Flio uses his boost magic on it, which kills the dragon in an instant, giving her the title of Dragon Slayer. He immediately gets surrounded by the rest of the girls, asking him to help them as well, but he claims that the dragons are already gone and he can't do anything now. Almana runs away immediately while the Demon King watches all this from his castle and decides to head out there in person to deal with this annoying adventurer and kill him and the traitor Rise himself. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe for part 4. And make sure to check out this brand new anime about a gamer who gets transported to a new world and becomes the strongest hero.